So today we're beginning a new series called Icon, the empowering invitation of the cross. And I'm really glad that you guys are here today because every week is an opportunity to look at some content, to sing songs, to have community that can help shape our lives and empower us to better live like Jesus. Or if you're someone who's new to faith, help build some strong structures. Or if you're exploring faith, my hope over these next few weeks as we look at this is that you see that Christianity and following Jesus is something that is quite unique and also very countercultural. And hopefully we'll get to have a look at some of that stuff together. So we're heading into Easter shortly. So this series will take us into Easter. And I'm really looking forward to looking at this content with you. To kick us off, I'm just going to take a second to slow down and pray, and then we're going to get into today's message. Heavenly Father, thank you so much that you hold everything in your hands. There's nothing we do, we say, or feel that is foreign or distant from you. And we're not just some group of people living far away. You are intimately connected with what we are doing day to day. And for that, we say thank you. May what we look at today help. May it help us make great decisions. May it help us further in how we can follow you. Amen. Amen. So, as I said before, if you're new to faith or re-engaging in your faith, we're going to look at some stuff which is hopefully going to build or rebuild some of the core structures. If you're exploring faith, then welcome. One of the big reasons we have a church is because we want people to see life is better with Jesus, and we want to invite everyone to consider that invitation. And if you're a long-time follower of Jesus, just someone who's part of the church, then hopefully this series is helpful, encouraging, and challenging. Because without challenge, we don't grow, and without growth, we stay the same. So to kick us off for today, I want to take us to a common human emotion, something that we all feel from time to time. It's this emotion of discontentment. Now, I'm not going to ask if any of you are feeling that right now, but discontentment is something that we feel from time to time. It's that feeling of never enoughness. And in fact, for many of us, it's avoiding discontentment that drives us to succeed, to achieve, and to strive for whatever it is that we are looking for in life. To help you understand this emotion, here are some ways you have encountered discontentment. Remember when you were young and you got a toy, and you were so happy with your toy. And then your friend came over and they had a better toy. And you thought to yourself, well, this toy is rubbish now. You were happy a minute ago, but now you're discontent. Or perhaps you're renovating your house and you put the new kitchen in. It's perfect. Look at those new fancy countertops. I don't know. But your kitchen's looking smick and you're very happy. And then that neighbor that never invites you around for coffee. And then you see their kitchen. And your crummy renovated kitchen is no longer the joy of your heart. You're looking at their kitchen going, I want that kitchen. Or perhaps you did really well on a test. And you're really proud, look at how well I did. You jump onto socials and then someone boasts and look at their score. Why couldn't I have got their score? It happens when everything in our own hands becomes eclipsed by what other people have when we become aware of that. And the good news is that Jesus also encountered this temptation of discontentment. So the authors of Matthew and Luke, they're two documents that we have that record how Jesus lived, what Jesus said. They record for us this interesting interaction that Jesus has with the devil. You probably didn't expect to come to church to hear that sentence today. But when Jesus was meeting with the devil, and it has this interaction that happens that shows that he was tempted as well with this idea of being discontent. So, Jesus is about to start his ministry. He's preparing himself. Who of you have a pre-work routine in the morning? Some of you guys organized? Yeah, good on you. So, this is Jesus' pre-ministry routine, all right? This is what he got ready so that he could live 3 years of his life. He spent 40 days in the desert not eating by himself. Now, that is next level. So he was getting ready to go 3 years to do everything that Jesus could do. If you're unfamiliar, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John record Jesus' life. But apart from a couple of things when he was a kid, a lot of it has just happened within the span of 3 years. And we still talk about him today. So if you've done nothing with your life so far, you just need 3 good years. All right? So just head up. So he's alone. He's in the desert. He's hungry. He's preparing himself for what was going to come. And the devil rocks up and he tempts him. And he tempts him 3 times. And it's the second temptation which I want to zoom into. Because it's a temptation that we as modern day Jesus followers sometimes don't even know is happening to us. But if I can shine the light on it for a little bit, hopefully it will help highlight where it is in our lives. So this is what Luke records for us. If you got your Bible, we're in Luke chapter 4. Otherwise, it's going to be up on the screen. So Luke chapter 4, 5 and 6. So the devil led Jesus up to a high place, and he showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. I will give you, he says, all their authority, their splendor, everything, because it's been given to me, and I can give it to anybody that I want to. Now, chances are is that Jesus is probably on a hill overlooking a city, possibly at night to make it look really beautiful. But the point is that the devil's got him there and he's saying, look, I can give you anything you want. Of all the kingdoms of the world, if you want it, I can give it to you. To try and contextualize it for you and me, it's a little bit like this. Car people, imagine walking into a luxury car shop, all right? Or old car shop, whatever cars you're into. They're shiny, they're glistening, and you're walking around seeing all of these amazing things, and you're like, if I just could pay some money, if I could get that car, if I could get that car. Or maybe you're someone who likes Apple products, like me with an iPad and my iPhone. It's like going into the best iPhone store, Apple store, and just seeing all the new products. Maybe you're a clothing person. It's like going to the leading clothing store place. It's like going into anything that you want, you desire, you feel you need. It's like going into that place. It's like essentially it's a tour of discontentment, right? Because whenever you go into those places and look for something that's new, all that happens in your brain is, oh, my old car, oh, my old products, oh, my old clothes. But it's like being in this space of just seeing all of what could be. And it's like the devil standing there going, I've got a card here with unlimited funds. You can have it. Anything you see, anything you want, you take this card, you tap and go, you pay, I'll pay for everything. Now, if all you knew was that there was someone or something that could offer you everything, someone or something that could offer you everything that you ever wanted, you and I would look at that opportunity and go, that sounds pretty good actually. Like Jesus is there and he's being told, if you want all the power, all the wealth and all the control, I can give it to you. Imagine someone coming up to you and saying, do you want to have the ability to do what you want, when you want, however you want to? That doesn't sound initially like a temptation. That sounds like an opportunity. That sounds like an opportunity of a lifetime. Because we think to ourselves, if I was the one who could do what I want when I want it, if I was the one that had access to immeasurable resources, I know I would use it for good, right? Remember a couple of months ago, $200 million Powerball? Yeah, you saw the posters everywhere. Some of you entered, right? Because if you had $200 million, imagine the good you could do. Like, we don't want someone else to win that money. If I won that money, I'm aware of how good I am. Now, look, you'd win your 200 mil. You take a few million for yourself. Obviously, you're caring. You're not stupid. But with the rest of it, you got to live. But some of you looked at that and went, if I had that money, I could change my city. Heck, I could probably change the country. Imagine the good programs you could start up. Imagine the empowering movement you could begin if you had $150 million in the bank. We think to ourselves, if that was me, imagine what I could do. So it doesn't sound like a temptation. It sounds like an opportunity. In fact, for some of us, that sounds like the sort of opportunity we've been training for. The reason we work hard, study hard, the reason we discipline ourselves is so that when we have the opportunity to succeed, achieve, and take a next step, we go to ourselves, that's what I'm aiming for. So Jesus is offered the opportunity to succeed. He's offered the opportunity to get the splendor of the kingdoms of this world. And that opportunity that gets presented by the devil very quickly becomes a temptation, because the devil isn't saying you can have it for free. He says there's a little bit of a caveat. So in verse 7, he says, I'll give you everything, Jesus. All you have to do is worship me. That's it. That's all you have to do. I will give you all of this. You don't have to go through the original plan of suffering. You can just take all of this ability to say what you want, do what you want, when you want, and you're going to do a great job with it, Jesus, because you're the Son of God. And you can do all of that, but that's only if you acknowledge me. So the devil's saying to Jesus, if you acknowledge and submit to me as your king, just once and for a moment, then everything is yours. Now, if you are someone who's not a Christian, then you don't believe there's a devil, probably. So you're probably not thinking to yourself, this is a possibility. You just think life is life. You get what you get and you don't get upset. Has anyone got that book? I read that to my kids all the time. You get what you get, you don't get upset. And like a minute later, they're upset because they didn't get what they wanted. But it's a nice idea. So you think to yourself, if there's no devil, there's just what we get to life. So any opportunity to achieve, to gain, to excel, to go up and to the right, you don't view that as a temptation. You view that as an opportunity. Because reality is that in our culture especially, we're not tempted to succeed, right? You're not tempted to succeed. Our culture is telling us all the time, you will succeed. Think about schooling for a second. K through year 12, what do you have to do every year? Go up a level. Go up a level, go up a level. When you get to the end of year 12, you're expected to go to uni or expected to have your career sorted out. Then you take a gap year, you disappoint your parents, and then you get on with your life. You think about it in sport. If you stay in the same team, you move up grades, you move up levels, and eventually you might even get to go to states or perhaps even nationals or, who knows, international. Or perhaps in your job, you go every year, if I can just get a pay increase, and a job title change every now and then would sweeten the pot, of course. You think to yourself, that's sort of what we're meant to do. And in fact, someone who goes, that's not what I'm on about, you look at them and you think, you're broken. Worse than that, you're lazy. What do you mean you don't want to succeed? What do you mean you don't want to go up and to the right? What do you mean you don't want to achieve? We're not tempted to succeed in our culture. We're expected to. But we're tempted to be lazy. So Jesus weighs up this offer. Kingdoms of this world have to say that the devil is the king, have to acknowledge him. So he weighs it up. And this is his response. He says in verse 8, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." That's it. I can't say yes to your offer because I know the God who holds everything in his hands, and I know that I can only give my allegiance to him. You see, Jesus isn't interested in acquiring, improving, or recreating more of what already exists. He's got a bigger picture in mind. Jesus is saying, that's not the sort of kingdom that I want to be a part of. That's not the sort of kingdom that I'm even bringing into this world anymore. That's not how I operate. See, Jesus isn't interested in the whole idea of might makes right, we're number one, achieve. The kingdoms of the world, the splendor, the success, that's not what drives Jesus at all. So it makes us think a little bit, doesn't it? Okay, Jesus, if you're not about strive, succeed, success, up and to the right, what are you advocating for here? Are you saying, my mantra in university or Bible college, C's win degrees? Is that what you're saying, Jesus? Like middle road, just sort of coast through life? Or are you saying don't try? Like what's the alternative here? Because when we don't try or when we don't look to succeed, our culture looks at us and says, well, clearly you don't care. And clearly you don't want to achieve. But Jesus is looking at these two options saying success, striving over here, doing nothing and laziness over here. And Jesus is saying, actually, there's a better way, a way that I'm going to show you how to live. And it is a way that I'm constantly tempted to ignore, to discount, and to abandon. Because I'll be honest with you, if you haven't met me for long enough, one thing you'll realize very quickly, I'm competitive. Anyone else competitive? It's great, isn't it? And isn't it annoying when you play games against people who aren't competitive? Oh, we're here for the fun of it. Yeah, sure you are. Just can you try harder, please? At least try to want to win. So anyway, I know in my nature, I want to win. I want to succeed. I want up and to the right. That's part of how I've been built. Always educate yourself. Always keep going. Keep trying. And I'm selfish. I get all of that. But when I met Jesus, and ongoingly as I meet Jesus in my day-to-day living, the thing that I'm reminded again and again and again, that he's calling us to live a different way to our culture and a different way to when we put ourselves first. And the way of Jesus, I've found personally, has made me better at life and made my life better. But better than that, when I follow the way of Jesus, what I've found is that life goes better for those around me. I'm a better husband, a better father, and a better friend when I follow Jesus' example, rather than trying to strive like the world or giving up in laziness. So Jesus was tempted to continue with the way things are. The devil was saying to him, you can be like everyone else. Take the power, take the money, take the glory, and just do what we have been doing for the past millennia. But Jesus came to launch a new way, an upside down way, a different way of living. He came to show us the way of the cross. So he refused and he started to forge a new way. But his way was very risky and incredibly untested. So let's fast forward 3 years in the timeline. So Jesus was tempted by the devil. 3 years later, he's arrested. Between his temptation and his arrest, a lot happens. But here's what I want you to know for this morning. When Jesus was arrested, the people around him were expectant. Because in their mind, the people who were closest to Jesus were Jewish people. And they knew the stories of the Jewish God. When things were down and out for the person God had chosen, what happens? God shows up big. So in their mind, they're looking at Jesus being arrested and they're thinking to themselves, it looks like Jesus is losing, which by implication means God is losing. Therefore, God is going to show up and it's going to be big, it's going to be unmissable, it's going to be intense. But they were still looking at the lens of win-lose. So they were thinking to themselves, God's about to come through and win, therefore we better be ready. But unfortunately for them, the story goes on that after Jesus is arrested, he is then mocked, he's taken to trial, and eventually he's crucified. He's put onto a cross, nails are driven into his hands, and he's forced to be in the open, almost naked, hanging on a cross, dying. And the followers who stood with Jesus, the ones who were so confident that God was on their side, ran away. They left him. The tide had turned against them. They had all the confidence in the world. Everything was go them, go Jesus, and suddenly he's arrested. They waited for God to show up. God didn't show up, and for that moment in time, they looked at Jesus on a cross and went, we lost. And now we are going to go. And they abandoned him. 3 days later, he comes back to life. Yes. And then they started to understand, Jesus is different. Not only can he come back to life, that is a huge, big difference changer, but he won differently. He didn't come in and win with power and force. And in fact, the only blood that was shed in his takeover of creating a new kingdom was his own. That's incredibly different to what they were expecting. They were expecting, like in the old stories, the sea is going to swallow up the army. They're expecting, like the old stories, the boy with the slingshot is going to take down the giant. They were expecting God to rock up and do something on their behalf that they couldn't do. And he did, but not the way that they expected. And as a result of this, they spread the message. Jesus is alive, and his way of living is better. The way he calls us to live is better. And it's such a unique situation that arises that Christians and Jesus followers actually pivoted this icon, this cross, this image, and they actually took it and it pivoted from a thing of suffering, sorrow, and humiliation, and it became the icon of a movement of people willing to lay down their lives and help a hurting earth. I mean, what a turnaround story for that. They didn't take a sword or an army-eating sea or something of power as their symbol. They took a cross. What should be the final say in humiliation became the platform from which an entire movement changed the shape of our planet. And for those who were there in the first century when they saw the cross, they don't, like us, 2,000 years later, look at it and go, that's where God saved us. They didn't see it like that. What they saw was an invitation to a new way of choosing to live. A way to live day by day. Now, there is, unfortunately, even within our current modern day movement, streams of people that say, yeah, that whole lay down your life and sacrifice way of the early church, it doesn't work anymore. The world's changed. And one of the big things they say, really, and you read about it now and then, is it just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. It's too weak. It's too cowardly. It's too passive. How can you transform our world with a bunch of people that are willing to just surrender or give up? Or that's their view at times. But the thing that I've take courage from, and the reason that we exist today as a church, is because over the last 2,000 years, this idea of submission, of choosing to lose, of putting other people first, which shouldn't work in the eyes of culture, has succeeded again and again at transforming culture from within. The reason we're here today as a church is because over the last 2,000 years, again and again and again, people choosing to lose, choosing to put other people first, choosing to not strive but love people well, is what led us to this point where we have a message of hope today. Isn't that encouraging for us. We don't have to strive anymore. We don't have to always look for achievement and success. That stuff does still happen, but that's no longer our focus. But it is very risky to live this way. And in fact, because our culture voice is so strong, a lot of the time when we hear, okay, Jesus' way of choosing to lose, others first, new way of living, many of us probably want to abandon it and discount it because it's not really how we were brought up to be. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, make your own decisions, be better. And then Jesus comes along and says it's about laying down your life and choosing to put other people first. And we go, how does that work? How does that work? So we're tempted very, very often when we have moments where we can choose to put the way of the cross first or choose to succeed, and we go, it's too hard. I just want to do what culture does and I want to succeed. And I think it's one of the reasons Jesus said this in Luke chapter 9, just to remind us, whoever wants to be my disciple, you have to say no to yourself. You have to deny yourself. You have to choose to not be the center of everything. You got to take up your cross daily. So not once and done. Not once and done. I'll talk about this next week, but there's a thing within Christian movement of just say a prayer and get on with your life. I don't think Jesus gives us that option. We must take up our cross daily and follow him. We've got to daily deny ourselves because we are daily tempted to take up the kingdoms of this world and choose to live the way our culture wants us to live. So to get us started and get this practical as we land our little plane for today, I want you to take a question into your week. Now, if you're a note taker, write this question down. If you're a photo taker, take a photo of the screen in a second. Don't put it up yet, Arno. I'll just set it up first. Because you need to remember it. It's a very simple question, but if you don't remember it, you won't do it. And then I'll come back next week and say, who did it? And you're going to like, what question? So to help us out, take a picture of the screen in a second. Not this one. You can take that verse if you want. It's in the Bible as well. But this question coming up is what I want you to take into your week. Now, this question is something that will set you up to start to choose to live the way God wants us to live. But ask the question, don't act on the question, because I don't think you're going to be ready for that yet. It's a bit early, a bit risky. Now, when the question goes up there, a few of you are going to think to yourselves, that's a big question, and I don't like where it leads me. And you're probably tempted to go into a couple of extremes. For one, you're probably going to be thinking, well, what about our country? What about the world? Or personally, you might be thinking of yourself, well, what about this toxic relationship? Or what about... So take the extremes off the table, you're smart people. But personally, for you, this week, whenever you come into a time of conflict, disagreement, or back and forth conversation at work, school, or home, just to ask yourself this question and answer it internally: what would choosing to lose look like in this situation? So take a picture of it, try and remember it. It's not a hard question. What would choosing to lose look like in this situation? I'm going to be in some of these pictures, sorry. Just blur my face. What would choosing to lose look like in this situation? Because that is not a question that culture is going to want you to ask. That is not a question that you, in your selfishness, is going to want to ask. The question you want to ask, and I want to ask, is how do I win? How can I leverage this for my success? But I don't think Jesus gives us that option. What would choosing look like? What would choosing to lose look like in this situation? Because just think for a moment, what would it look like to actually let the other person win? What would it look like if you let the other person go first, even if you were there first? What would it look like to let them do it their way and even let them take the credit even if you had something to do with it? What would choosing to lose look like? And how would that look like in helping them win? Now, just a tip. There's a difference between losing and choosing to lose, right? There's a difference. Losing is losing, and that happens. But choosing to lose doesn't make you a loser. And in fact, choosing to lose in key relationships in your life will probably make you look more like Jesus than you've ever looked before. And it will require unnatural strength. We'll talk about that next week. It will require power that you do not possess. We'll talk about that next week. But when you see this in life, I guarantee you it will make you stop and stare. And in fact, if I was to put my money on it, most of you in the room and those of you who are online, the reason you even believe Jesus is real is because someone in your life chose to lose for you. A family member put you first. A friend put you first. A community put you first and chose to let you go on in your young and foolish ways and be loud and be presumptuous and be rude. And they just said, that's okay. We're here to love you. And they chose to lose for you. So what does it look like for us as a community when we choose to put the other person first? Because when Jesus went to the cross, he chose to lose. He could have at any moment got off the cross. He could have at any moment brought everyone to their knees. He could have at any moment returned bloodshed for bloodshed. He could have at any moment sought retribution. And he hung there and died. So for any Christian framework and worldview where we are the ones who choose to always win at the cost of the other person stands in direct conflict with literally the gospel of Jesus. For us personally and us as a world. Anyone who says to do anything in the name of God that makes the other team lose, they don't get this. They don't understand this. But it is the one thing, choosing to lose and live this way, it's the one thing that changed our world. And it's the only thing that actually genuinely changes the heart of man. So, what would choosing to lose look like in this situation? A good place to practice the coffee line. They get in front of you and you think to yourself, I'm going to get back in front of them. Choose to lose. Choose to lose. All right, we're going to pick it up there next week. Thank you very much for being here. And I hope that you are encouraged. And hopefully I'll see you all next Sunday morning.